Welcome back to a new episode on Stories Lost. If it happened to you, if one day you would happen to see a UFO, what makes you notice it? Is it fate, coincidence, or maybe something else entirely? Is it providence that makes one see a UFO, or is there a thought or meaning behind it all? That would be interesting to know. Because reports keep telling us that sometimes, in a group, only one person ends up seeing a UFO. What do this affinity suggest? Perhaps that there is a selection. Perhaps that the UFO crew intended for that particular person to be informed of their existence. Perhaps that a preternatural connection between visitors and observers prompted individuals to act intuitively, to wake, to rise, or to look closer. Against this, you might ask, you might wonder, what made this person notice the UFO while the others didn't? It could be argued against this that several thousand people have seen UFOs simultaneously, the ghost rockets incident in Sweden being one. Once again, the reasoning seems to falter due to insufficient knowledge on the subject. It would, however, be interesting to know if there is any common denominator for people who report having had close encounters with UFOs. It has been speculated that young people are particularly suited to attract the attention of UFO visitors. Currently, there is no statistical evidence, but some experts on ufology argue that young people, with their curiosity and open minds, may be more receptive to such phenomena. Youths are often more inclined to explore and question the world around them, which can make them more alert and open to unusual experiences. Their minds are less restricted by established notions of what is possible, and perhaps this in some way brings them closer to these UFO visitors. This week's episode features children and youths that, in a similar fashion, felt compelled to act upon instincts and intuition, which led them to enter into contact with unknown humanoid creatures. Not only were they intuitively drawn towards an encounter, but their experiences would also prove to be of an uncanny similarity. These two cases are both from Estonia, a country located in the Baltic region of Northern Europe. In the 1950s and 60s, Estonia was a small, resilient Baltic republic under the shadow of the Soviet Union's vast expanse. However, the Estonian landscapes, from the verdant forests to the rugged coastlines of the Baltic Sea, held a beauty that seemed to whisper secrets of a time before Soviet dominance. UFO landings had at the time been observed both in the east and the west. During these decades, Estonian ufologists had the opportunity to learn a great deal in their field due to UFO landings, where humanoids were also reported. The first occurred in the Viljandi district, in the village of Liiduvere, located 6 kilometers from Surijani. On a summer day in 1950, a 6-year-old girl, born in 1944, who lived in Liiduvere, observed an airplane-like object in a clover field near her home. The girl remembers feeling a sudden impulse to go there. At a distance of 300 to 400 meters from the farm, she saw a cigar-shaped aircraft, about 6 meters long. Its ends were silver shiny. The middle part of the plane was black and served as an exit. Neither wings nor wheels were visible. Around the craft, 4 small men moved. They were slightly taller than the 6-year-old girl. They wore unusual clothes, greenish in color. Around their reddish faces, they wore hoods. The girl says she does not remember their hands in detail. They moved somewhat clumsily. One of the men lifted his foot and kicked it on the craft. Their eyes looked foreign and mobile. The girl talked to the men and explained something using gestures. The men listened and responded. The girl does not remember what the conversation was about, but it was probably not conducted with articulated words, but rather with telepathy. In the middle of the conversation, the girl was suddenly seized by fear, which may have been caused by the foreign look in their eyes, and she ran home. When she looked back, she saw the craft started ascending slowly and calmly. The girl cannot recall hearing any sound. She told her mother and grandmother about the experience, but they did not believe her. The next day, she went to see if the object was still in the field. However, fear gripped her as she approached the spot. she still felt uneasy, and it took her a long time to get over it. In her memory, the concept of an airplane became associated with the cigar-shaped object she had seen in the field. Later, other airplanes seemed very strange to her because they had wings. In the summer of 1968, three 14-year-old girls witnessed an unusual event in southern Estonia. At that time, the press often wrote about UFOs and visitors from outer space, something these girls were very interested in. That summer, they spent at a camp organized by the Tartu school at their sports base. One of the witnesses, who wishes to remain anonymous, recounts the following in a taped recording from May 1977. It was the summer of 1968, and I spent my vacation with friends at Lake Kaarna, near Otepää. On the night of July 20th, between midnight and 1 a.m., something strange occurred. We were sitting around a wooden table, our usual dining place inside the cabin. I remember there was an odd silence and a beautiful moonlit night. We noticed a bright star moving at high speed in the sky. Soon it joined a cigar-shaped object that suddenly appeared and quickly disappeared from sight. Since it was already late, we decided to go to bed. It is interesting to add that we felt a peculiar threatening danger the whole time. It was as if we had foreseen some strange event. This feeling paralyzed us, and we felt it even inside the room. The large cigar we had seen increased our fear. As I began to undress, the room suddenly filled with light. My friend screamed, "Look, what is that?" I turned towards the window and saw a large, bright object about 50 meters away. I thought it looked like a bus. It was surrounded by reddish, orange, and yellow searchlights. The light blinded us, but gradually it dimmed, and only a dark, glowing mass remained in sight. It began to emit a green-blue light. We could also see a blue-green streak around the object that seemed to shrink. The light streak illuminated the forest and made us uneasy. The object remained in our sight for about 5 minutes. Then we heard a faint buzzing sound, and it was gone. Now I felt a strong urge to go out, even though I had just been paralyzed with fear while watching the object. When I reached the corner of the house, I saw a human-like figure, resembling a woman, where the object had been earlier. The figure could be about 140 to 150 centimeters tall and had a glowing silver band across its chest. The figure suddenly disappeared into thin air. I could see it only for a very short time. After a restless night, we decided the next morning to find out more about the event on the spot. When we arrived at the site, we observed a diffuse circle with a diameter of about 2 meters, and the ground was burnt. Within an area of 30 meters up to the road, there were the most peculiar marks on the ground, as if the object had jumped along the road. In the morning, we told our other friends what had happened, but they did not take us entirely seriously. We were advised not to make a fuss about the incident. Some of the kitchen staff reported that they had taken a boat trip on the lake that night and had heard a very loud noise around midnight. But we had not heard anything, despite being only 50 meters from the lake. From the investigation's point of view, it is worth noting that the witness kept a diary at that time, and because of this, the basic details of the observation have been preserved. The girls also scribbled down the details on a piece of paper, put it in a bottle, and buried it in the ground, exactly at the site of their observation. When the site was investigated, it was established that the object and the figure had been at a distance of at least 10 meters from the observer. The area with the strange marks was 180 meters long, not 30 meters as the girl had claimed. It was determined that the coach at the camp had not heard anything about the incident. However, the main witness's mother and the family's other associates, as well as a lady who had previously worked at the camp, confirmed the girl's experience in 1968. In exploring these extraordinary encounters from Estonia in the 1950s and 1960s, we glimpse moments that defy our conventional understanding of the world. Whether through the innocent eyes of a 6-year-old girl in Liiduvere, captivated by unusual visitors in a clover field, or the chilling midnight vigil of 3 teenage girls at Lake Kaarna. These reports challenge us to consider the mysteries that lie beyond our everyday perceptions. What possibility is there of connections beyond our comprehension? Could there be a thread linking these disparate events, a common thread that draws certain individuals toward these enigmatic encounters? As per usual, we invite you to draw your own conclusions. Today's case was taken from the archives of UFO Information, Issue 2 from 1980. Feel free to add to our message board. Your engagement with the channel's direction and purpose is very much appreciated. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for our next episode. This week, we'd like to extend a warm thank you for the coffee to Felman and Janivir. Your support truly means a lot to us and helps us continue our work in bringing lesser-known UFO cases to light. If you'd also like to support the channel and contribute to our work, feel free to visit our Buy Me a Coffee or Patreon page. Links are in the description. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week for a longer episode.